Eurovision's joyful stage turns political battleground as four nations walk out over Israel's participation. What was once a glittering celebration of music and unity is now at the center of a heated political storm. For countries, Ireland, the Netherlands, Spain, and Slovenia have dramatically withdrawn from the 2026 Eurovision Song Contest, citing Israel's involvement as the breaking point. But here's where it gets controversial. While some see this as a stand against Israel's actions in Gaza, others argue it undermines the contest's apolitical spirit. Is Eurovision still a platform for cultural harmony, or has it become a stage for political protest? Let's dive in. The decision to pull out came after the European Broadcasting Union, EBU, the organization behind the annual spectacle, allowed Israel to compete despite ongoing tensions over its role in the Israel-Hamas conflict. The EBU's General Assembly met to address concerns, ultimately voting to tighten voting rules amid allegations of Israeli vote manipulation. However, they stopped short of excluding any broadcaster, leaving the door open for Israel's participation and sparking outrage among some members. And this is the part most people miss. The Gaza war has cast a long shadow over Eurovision for 2 years now, with protests outside venues and organizers struggling to keep political statements at bay. This year's boycott marks a historic turning point, with Eurovision expert Dean Violetic calling it one of the most serious crises the organization has ever faced. He predicts a tense lead-up to the contest's 70th anniversary in Vienna next May, with more countries potentially joining the walkout. Iceland, for instance, is still deliberating its participation, with broadcaster RUV set to discuss the matter next week. Meanwhile, Israeli President Isaac Herzog expressed relief that Israel will compete again, emphasizing the contest's role in fostering cultural understanding. But not everyone shares this optimism. The Dutch broadcaster Vratros bluntly stated that Israel's participation is incompatible with their responsibility as a public broadcaster. Spain's RTV and Ireland's RT echoed similar sentiments, highlighting the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and Israel's alleged use of Eurovision for political gain. These broadcasters argue that the contest's neutrality is at stake, a bold claim that's sure to spark debate. But here's the counterpoint. Israeli broadcaster KN CEO Golan Yakpaz questioned whether EBU members are undermining freedom of expression by excluding Israel. KN denies any involvement in vote manipulation, insisting their participation is about art, not politics. This raises a thought-provoking question. Can, or should, Eurovision remain apolitical in an increasingly polarized world? Historically, Eurovision hasn't been immune to global events. Russia's expulsion in 2022 after invading Ukraine set a precedent for political intervention. Yet, the Gaza conflict has proven to be the contest's biggest challenge yet, with over 70,000 lives lost in the war, according to Gaza's health ministry. Critics argue that allowing Israel to compete normalizes its actions, while supporters see it as a chance for cultural dialogue. Here's where it gets even more complicated. Some experts, including those linked to the UN, have labeled Israel's offensive as genocide, a claim Israel vehemently denies. This accusation adds another layer of controversy to Israel's participation, making the boycott a moral stand for some and an overreach for others. The financial implications can't be ignored either. With broadcasters facing budget cuts and competition from social media, a boycott by major players like Spain, part of the Big Five, and Ireland, a 7-time winner, could impact viewership and revenue. Meanwhile, the return of Bulgaria, Moldova, and Romania after years of absence risks being overshadowed by this political drama. So, what's next? The final list of participants will be announced by Christmas, but the debate is far from over. As Violetic noted, next year's edition will be one of the most politicized ever, turning what was meant to be a grand celebration into a minefield of controversy. Now, we want to hear from you. Is the boycott justified, or does it betray Eurovision's spirit of unity? Should politics ever be allowed to influence cultural events? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going.